Light as a feather, stiff as a board. Light as a feather, stiff as a board. We are the weirdos, mister.
Black as night, erase death from our sight. White as light, mighty hectate, make it right. I myself am strange and unusual.
Cast a circle, spark some incense, and grab a cup of tea, because it's time for the Cousins Coven podcast. I'm Sharon.
And this is Wendy. Welcome back to the Coven, you guys. I had a few updates. One is, just as a reminder, you guys, we just sent out our March newsletter. And if you haven't already, make sure to sign up at our website at cousinscoven.home.blog.
Yes, join our little inner coven and get to know us more, get some cool spells that we come up with all by ourselves, and then just usually Mooner instead of lunar. We talk about Mooner associations, and clearly we know what we're talking about because we say Mooner.
Okay, so for the February supermoon, Sharon and I, her coven invited me to come join along with them to do a couple of spells.
Yes.
And I was really excited to join. And afterwards, after we said goodbye and everything, and I was doing some spells on my own and just kind of doing some work on myself, and noticed that there was a spirit in the room. And I just quieted myself to really listen to them, because I've been working on really talking to spirits and finding out why they're here, what they need from me, why they keep following me, rather than pushing them away, because I've spent the majority of my life pushing them away. And I was like, okay, I'm going to help this person. And it happened to be, and I think I've mentioned her on the podcast before when Clarissa was on, we had this little girl ghost, Anne, who's lived with us for probably about 8 to 10 years now. She's been with us.
Yeah, you guys did mention her.
And
she's on our scrying episode if you want to go listen.
That's right. And it was her that was in the room with me, and I was asking her what she needed, and I clearly heard her say, and I should have been recording. I was not recording this information, but I heard her say that she missed her parents, and I could hear her just crying, totally crying. And I sent her to the other side.
That's probably about time.
I know. I didn't realize that all along that's all she really wanted. She kept saying she needed her parents, but I never put two and two together because I was so out of touch with my abilities. But being part of this podcast and having you on my side and somebody to talk to, that it's been kind of nice. It's helped me ground myself more in my abilities. So now I realized exactly what she needed, and now she's where she needs to be with her family.
That's awesome. I'm so glad you were able to help her out.
Yeah. I felt bad because I didn't invite my whole family. Like, I just did it. It was spur of the moment. It had to happen. And afterwards, I was telling the kids, I was like, I'm so sorry I sent her without you being able to say goodbye.
How did they take it, if you don't mind me asking?
They were fine with it, actually.
Good.
They were just glad that she was finally with her family.
Of course. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. Did you see her apparition, or you just felt her presence?
I felt her presence and I heard her. When I opened the other side for her, which for me, I think you and I have talked about this before. I don't remember if I've talked about it on the podcast, but when I'm kind of opening the other side, I just visualize this light growing bigger and bigger, and I usually talk out loud when it's happening. And I saw the light, and I saw her parents on the other side.
That's so
but
awesome.
I didn't see her. Yeah, I didn't see her. And then when she went through, I did see her with her parents, and she waved to me. And then I closed the opening. Actually, I asked if anybody else wanted to go through, but I didn't hear anybody else, so I just closed it. So
I never thought about closing the opening. Like the last couple times I've helped ghosts in this manner. Oh God. I guess so.
I'm sure that they close. I've just always felt that I needed to close it, because if you open a door, you have to close it, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to leave it out to the elements.
You know what? I think I did. You're right. It's just like so spur in the moment, and these things, when they happen, it's unbelievable. So much is happening.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So many things going through your mind at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have anything you wanted to update us on?
Well, as you were talking about like just how this podcast has brought things to the surface, I do feel like it's doing the same for me too. And every month, the more open I become in my life about being a witch, more people that I never told before are finding out about it. And instead of rejecting me like my fears, they're actually embracing me and getting curious about it and wanting to learn more and grow more. And I just keep meeting like people who are into things, whether it be tarot cards or other people who consider themselves to be warlocks, and all these cool things are unlocking the more honest and open I am with myself, and the more I just embrace who I am and not judge it, and I shed that fear. Like, I'm getting really good feedback from the universe. I feel like keep it up.
That's awesome. Oh, I have goosebumps, I have to tell you. I was like so excited to hear this.
Yeah, it's just really neat. And I guess I encourage all of you little witchies and weirdos out there just to embrace who you are, what you're into. And even if it's the weird stuff that no one's into like you are, you'll find your people, you'll find your tribe. And the more open you are with it, the more open other people will be in return.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so today, you guys, we're discussing flat earth theories, but first it's time for cauldron topics.
Yes, and today we're going to be diving into a little earth magic as part of our elemental series. So I did do a little research on earth magic, and I am familiar with it as a principle and what it stands for, but I'm going to go over kind of the basics and then just dive into some fun specific ways of using it. So the elements, as we know, are usually invoked during ritual in order to balance the energy in a sacred space or just balance out the practitioner. But you can also invoke any of these elements independently to lend their energy to your spell work or just your everyday life. And the element of earth relates to stable foundations and rules health, wealth, prosperity, employment, and fertility. It's often invoked from using stones and crystals, and particularly used in not magic, which is not something I've ever tried to do before, and spells related to health and home, to gaining material things, including money and employment, and for general security and family matters. So earth is invoked from the north in the form of spirit creatures associated with the earth, including like gnomes, fauns, goblins. You can call upon the earth gods and goddesses too, like Demeter, Gaia, Terra, Persephone, and my personal favorite would be the horn god Cernunnos or Pan. On the altar, if you're someone who likes to have an altar, earth can be represented by stones, crystals, in a bowl of salt or soil. I always have stones on my altar and salt as well. I've never really worked directly with soil. But colors used to represent earth would be like dark earthly colors like brown, black, and green, of course. I always think of green candles when I'm invoking the earth.
Nice. I wonder if this is when you could use like a meteorite.
Oh, for sure.
Because it's a black stone or obsidian or something.
I would think so. Yeah.
Cool. I love it.
You can also invoke the element by like statues of animals associated with the element of earth, like bulls, stags, the dragon, wolves, or the owl, cats, and sphinx. They're all associated with earth. And the elements of earth is associated with the zodiac sign of Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. So shout out to all of our earth sign friends and listeners out there.
Yay.
Yeah, whoop whoop. And earth is really an energy that runs through the trees. You can actually feel it when you touch the bark of a tree, or even just like cusping your hands around a plant, a flower. Earth energy is really in the collective memory of any stones that you have and crystals. You can hear it and feel it in the songs of birds singing in the trees, and even in the dew on the blades of grass. So really, I feel like if you're going to be using and invoking earth magic, the best thing you can do is just stepping outside and really embracing nature. Walk in the woods, walk in your park, the beaches, the mountains, and even just in your everyday mundane activities of like going outside and taking your dog out to the bathroom or just commuting to work. Like, I really encourage you to observe nature. Notice what creatures cross your path, what shapes are in the clouds, what flowers or grasses do you smell. Really notice the warmth of the sun and feel the cool breeze. Just soak it all in. This is the god and the goddess. In their own way, they're communicating with you. And when you've made this like a regular practice of noticing the signs all around you and really enjoying nature, nature will speak to you. So roll up your sleeves and let's start practicing some earth magic for yourself. And there's really 1,000 ways you can work with the earth in your magic, but I wanted to talk about a few just fun ones that came up when I was like looking into it. You can really use earth magic to heal the body. One specific spell I found was that you can rub an apple or like a potato on the afflicted person, and then you would bury that apple, and as the apple like rots away, it's rotting away your disease.
Oh my gosh, I need that.
Right? That sounds really cool. Like if you have a cold, maybe.
Yeah.
It's still advised to seek medical attention. If you have cancer or something, still get a doctor, but there's nothing that magic can't also aid in, but I would still go to a doctor if it's serious.
Right. Exactly.
You can also bury magical items. Like you can bury just spell jars that you fill up with like maybe intentions or protective sigils or whatever, and just bury them on your property. You can do this with crystals too. Like if you put 4 big crystals like on your lawn, like a crystal grid, you can actually protect your area.
That's awesome.
And you can even do that with any item that needs cleansing, but I've never really wanted to commit to that and get my shit super dirty.
Yeah.
But oh yeah, I was reading that you can do earth scrying, which is if you were to just grab like a small bowl or even like a frisbee kind of thing, just fill it up with dirt. Just use the dirt and what patterns you see to give you messages and try to scry with the earth itself. And another fun little quick spell that I read about was to protect your children. You would throw a handful of earth or sand towards them as they walk away, but do so without them realizing it.
Otherwise they're like, Mom, geez.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you doing, Mom? Stop it. So it didn't even mention anything about like saying a chant, but just somehow that dirt behind them is going to protect them. So I really wrote that down for you, Wendy. So throw dirt at your children.
Thank you. No, throw dirt at my kids.
You can use salt to represent the earth, and salt is also really good for cleansing and protection. You can use it to like cast a circle. You can dust it over your altar and your magical items. Like if you just got something maybe new from the thrift store that you want to use in your altar, sprinkle that in some salt. You can even mix salt with water to make your own cleansing like holy water for your stuff, and just kind of sprinkle that on your area. There's really a lot of different types of magical traditions that rely on dirt more than others. And so I wanted to kind of learn more about using actual dirt in magic, since that's not something I've done yet. And I was reading that the Afro-Caribbean tradition of the Palo Monte utilizes more types of dirt than really any other magical tradition. And that these Palo spells, they require like handfuls of dirt and from specific places. So if you were to do a spell, it would usually say something like get 4 handfuls of dirt from a police station, 2 from a courthouse, 3 from a hospital, and then like so on. And that this is like a tradition that dates back to ancient Mesopotamia, which I'm like, wait, are there ancient Mesopotamia police stations?
Right.
But I guess
That's
just like getting specific handfuls of dirt from areas that maybe would invoke kind of like protection and justice and good health and things like that. Other places that would hold magical dirt would be graveyard dirt. You could use crossroads dirt and even footprint dirt. And of course, when I heard that, I was like, ooh, Bigfoot!
That's what I was just thinking. I was like, footprints? Bigfoot?
Yes!
Ah!
Yes! You get it. I would so love that. And then you would have to destroy like the only evidence you have so that you could use it for your magic.
So you could use it.
Maybe you could use a summoning spell. Summon Bigfoot.
Yes.
But each of those locations is said to transmit its own energy. Graveyard dirt is said to be the most crucial magical ingredient and a component of many spells.
That's true.
So a lot of traditions and cultures are going to differ on if you would be using graveyard dirt for good or for evil. It's really based on your outlook. So like cultures who perceive ancestral spirits as being positive and helpful, like Africa and Asia, they would use graveyard dirt for like benevolent purposes like protection. Other cultures who perceive dead as like benevolent would perceive graveyard dirt as evil. Some spells require you to collect dirt from a specific grave based on what kind of spell you're going to be doing. So some would say like get the dirt from your mother's grave or a child's grave. Some would even say get dirt from a murderer's grave, which sounds
Yikes.
creepy.
Yeah, I don't know if I...
No thanks. Like, maybe my own family member, sure. But other than that, I don't think I would feel comfortable.
Yeah. Or an animal. I wonder if you could do like dirt from an animal's grave.
Oh, yeah, of course. That's cool. Like a pet cemetery.
Yeah.
And then they were kind of saying in this book, it was the Judika Isles book that I was reading, the 5,000 Spells Encyclopedia, that really it's a common thing that a lot of people from all over like cultures and society and history, that they would use dirt from like saints' graves to make talismans for themselves. And so some people think like saint graves are really holy. You can even use the ashes of the dead in your spells. Like apparently after Joan of Arc was burned, people were collecting her ashes like crazy. And so the purpose of that was really unknown, but some kind of just speculated maybe they were using it to keep it like as a holy relic.
Oh, okay.
You can also do that with like saints' bones. You would collect their bones and ashes as holy relics as well. But if you are going to be collecting any kind of dirt from a grave, it's recommended to leave an offering behind, like coins or even alcohol. And I would think you would want to do the same at a crossroads or Bigfoot as well.
Yes. I wonder if you could leave flowers too.
I would think so. Or I was even thinking like tobacco, honestly.
Oh, yeah. So when you go to New Orleans, are you going to get some graveyard dirt? I mean, they have that famous graveyard there.
Oh my gosh. I didn't consider it, and I don't think I would, honestly.
Okay.
Unless it was something that was like a known thing, but I feel like that's messing with forces I don't want to take back with me.
True. I get it.
Yeah. And there's other practices about just connecting with the earth that have been scientifically proven and can be less on the witchy side and just more like practical. It's this technique of earthing, which you might have heard of, is when you just walk barefoot outside. And really when you're doing this, it's said that you're soaking up the earth's energy. And there's been studies that have proven a lot of health benefits of earthing, which come from the relationship between our bodies and the electrons that are actually in the earth and the soil. So the planet has its own natural charge, and when we get direct contact with it like that and the bare soles of our foot, we really benefit. So it's proven to help by a lot of ways, and I just jotted down like a few of them, but it actually increases your antioxidants, reduces inflammation, improves sleep, moderating your heart rate, and improving your glucose regulation, reduces your stress, and boosts your immunity. And there's lots of benefits to this.
Yeah.
Earthing actually increases the surface charge of your red blood cells, and as a result, your cells are going to avoid clumping, which decreases your blood's viscosity. And high viscosity is a significant factor in heart disease, so it's even good for your heart disease. So I just thought that was really cool. And as a kid, I used to walk around barefoot in my backyard all the time to try to emulate like Pocahontas.
Yeah.
That's right. I remember one time you were over there, and somehow the backyard had all these slugs.
Yes.
That was the worst. And so you'd be walking
there were
out there.
So many of them. It was crazy.
Yeah, they would squish under your feet.
Yeah.
And I don't really walk barefoot outside anymore because living in an apartment, you don't want to go out there and just like walk around in God knows what glass or dog poop.
Right. But a field, like if you were to go hiking and you saw like an open meadow, maybe you could do it there, or on the beach. And one of the things that I love about the beach is that the sand kind of works as an exfoliant on your feet as well. So it gets away all those dead skin cells.
That's true. I do walk barefoot on the beach. I know you're a regular beach visitor. I just need to do it more as well, because maybe just at the park. I don't know. I need to go walk barefoot.
Right. There aren't a lot of places that I will do it at, but the beach is definitely one of them. I've done it in a couple of meadows, but you just have to be careful because you don't want to step on something that you shouldn't. You know, what if you found a beehive or an ant hive, or I mean, not a beehive, but like an ant hive, and you accidentally stepped on it?
I've stepped on a bee. I have totally stepped on a bee.
Me
See, as a
too.
kid, I was doing that stuff all the time in the backyards. I felt comfortable there. But I remember stepping on a bee and like finding its little dead butt in my foot. Yep.
I've done that too.
Okay, so I came across this spell when I was researching in this encyclopedia just about like earth spells. And this one was listed because it's invoking like earth spirits, but the whole spell was just kind of funny and gave me giggles, so I had to share it.
Okay.
It's the Slavic cholera spell, which, you know, woo, cholera, how fun. It's a Slavic ritual, is intended to stop an outbreak of cholera. However, it may also be effective against other plagues, and this ritual is for women only. Although men will ultimately benefit from the ritual's success, they are not allowed to participate or even witness the ritual on pain of death. And it says step 1 is at midnight, 9 virgins and 3 widowed crones who are at least temporarily celibate go to the outskirts of town, and other women are actually encouraged to join, but they're just not necessary for partaking in the acts of the ritual. So they're the core group undressed down to their slips and undergarments. So this is why men were allowed to watch. And the widows cover their hair with white shawls or turbans, while the virgins wear their hair loose. And a plow is hitched to one crone and driven by another.
Oh my gosh.
That's the imagery that made me really happy, was these old ladies in their chivvies dragging around
with
plows.
a plow.
And then the 9 virgins.
Maybe this is how Grandma gets her garden so well.
Right? And she'd be like, Grandpa, don't you look at me. Oh, man. And then the 9 virgins, they just kind of walk by carrying the scythes. I guess those are like those curved cutters, right? For like wheat.
The scythe. So they cut the wheat.
Yeah. So the remaining crones carry animal bones and skulls, and the procession circumvates the perimeter of the town, plowing all around to permit the earth spirits to emerge and then fight off the disease. So the group of women is noisy, rambunctious, and that whole atmosphere is really encouraged. The women shout out, sing, and howl into the moon. And I just thought that was really cute.
It is.
But I
don't know if I'd want to pull the plow, but I'm up for a lot of the other things.
Right. And honestly, the circumstances of the spell are kind of sad and tragic. Like maybe if there's a cholera outbreak, you don't go out naked at night.
Right.
And circle your town. But hey, maybe it worked.
Maybe.
So I don't know. I feel like going forward, I'm going to keep in mind the practice of earthing and maybe try to get some dirt. I did find a cool spell about like working on the crossroads itself and leaving like an offering for Hecate in order to like help commune with spirits and things like that. And I'm just trying to think of ways to do more magic outside and be more active in my practice and connection with earth.
I love it. I know I'm actually looking forward to the spring so that I can go sit out on the patio and not be freezing.
Oh, I know. I would love to start a patio garden as well.
Yeah, be awesome.
So keeping in theme of the earth, we were going to talk about flat earth today.
Yay. So have you guys ever been lying awake at night pondering the existence of the universe and had some crazy ideas about what makes the world go round? Then you pick up your phone to do a little research and bam, you hit the bottom of the planet and find a theory out there where everything we ever learned in school is whack and the earth is totally flat. Okay, let's dig a little bit deeper. Sharon and I watched this documentary. Did you end up watching it, Behind the Dome?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. So Sharon suggested this documentary, Behind the Dome, and we both watched it. One thing that really stuck out to me in this documentary was something one of the scientists said. I don't know if you remember this part, that he was standing kind of on this stage at a bar and he was talking to a bunch of other scientists and other people, and he was like, have you ever been called crazy for a belief you had? Raise your hand if you've been called crazy. When I was watching it, I was literally raising my hand like, yeah, that's me. I've been called crazy for my beliefs.
Definitely.
And I really started getting emotional thinking about how these individuals have been put down for their belief system, because I know I've been put down for that. I mean, I believe in ghosts and I see ghosts, but when people hear stuff like that, they're like,
yeah, I mean, we're
crazy.
being witches even, same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. I was like, okay, so I feel bad that these people are being put down for something that they truly believe in.
Right.
Even though I still don't believe in it.
Yeah. I think that going forward, if we are not trying to call out flat earthers for any of their beliefs, we're just merely discussing the theory and kind of bringing some science into it and our thoughts and general impressions. But if you're a flat earther, more power to you.
Exactly. Yep. Our world is what we make it. And if you want it to be flat, then so be it.
Yeah, right. And harm none. Do what you will.
That's right. And so basically what this theory is that the Arctic is at the center of our map, and then there's the continents, and then at the edge of that, it's kind of this round, thick crust type ice that they call Antarctica, and that surrounds the world kind of in this cocoon, and it holds the water onto the earth like a barrier.
Very Game of Thrones.
Very Game of Thrones, yeah. So what's on the other side of the ice?
White Walkers.
White Walkers, that's right. So here's a statement from the Flat Earth Society that I read. It says, the Earth is surrounded on all sides by an ice wall that holds the oceans back. The ice wall is what explorers have named Antarctica. Beyond the ice wall is a topic of great interest to the Flat Earth Society, and to our knowledge, no one has been very far past the ice wall and returned to tell their journey. What we do know is that it encircles the Earth and serves to hold in our oceans and help protect us from whatever lies beyond. So I thought that was really interesting and just kind of wanted to share that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. There are some theories kind of about what lies beyond that ice barrier. And I did get this information from websites and also that documentary that we watched. Basically, some people think that there's other discs kind of on the other side, that there may be other round, flat Earths that are kind of similar to parallel universes, but they're just all connected.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, so I don't know if that, we really don't know if you're thinking that the flat Earth theory is real. Let's put ourselves in their shoes. We really don't know what's on the other side of that, is basically what they're saying. So everything that they talk about is a theory. And I read that some people actually believe that there's a dome over the Earth as well, where the sun and the moon are just these lights in the sky, kind of like flat objects that are lights, and they move around and the Earth stays still.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then others aren't sure about the dome. But basically all I thought was, so basically you think we're in this giant spaceship floating through the universe. That's all I got out of it. I was like, I'm on this craft just floating through space.
Yeah, there's not a lot of answers with the whole flat earther theologies. It's just so much mistrust and a lot of questions and like, why, what exactly are we? I didn't think about it being a spaceship necessarily. I was thinking maybe they thought it was almost like the Truman Show or maybe like a simulation theory. Like there's just so many different ways each, I guess, flat earther could take it.
Right. Everyone had their own take on it. It's kind of like magic. We all have our own take on how magic is for us. That's how flat earth is. I was kind of trying to find a link between where this flat earth theory began, like in the beginning. Because, years ago, before people noticed a curvature in the earth, or scientists discovered the curvature in the earth, they did used to think the world was flat. For thousands of years, they thought it was flat. And I thought it was because that's what it was said to be in the Bible, because the Bible alludes to it being flat. So I kind of wanted to look at that. I know we've talked about the Bible before on our Aliens in the Bible episode. I kind of talked about the firmament a little bit. And I know you and I have watched like YouTube videos about it.
Right.
But basically, according to BibleStudyTools.com, the Bible says firmament means expanse or vault over the earth or sky. And then they have in quotations, and God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters and let it divide the waters from the waters, which is odd, right? Water from water. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. So this to me I was like, it had the word firmament. I felt like I needed to talk about it because that's where in olden days they believed the world to be flat. And this is why they thought it was flat, because God said that it was flat.
Right. Pesky religion.
So I really started thinking about, okay, so if the earth is flat, what about all of the people who have actually been out in space and all of the companies? And flat earthers actually say that all of that stuff is just a conspiracy, that everything was faked. The moon landing, the space station, every picture that's out there, was faked, and all of the money that's used for the space programs just goes to line the pockets of politicians. I believe in a lot of conspiracy theories. It was really difficult for me to get behind that one. I mean, because there are private companies who are using their own money to go out in space. So this one was really hard for me.
Right.
There are a lot of people that we don't know who are out in space because it's not really public knowledge unless you know where to look. So there are other entities who have private ships that are already out in space.
Right. And NASA has problems getting funded and things like that.
Right.
Like, I don't think the government really is working with NASA that well.
Right.
And that would kind of link back to maybe the government knowing about aliens and not wanting us to go out into space and trying to hold us back from tech. Like, that's a conspiracy I can kind of get behind, but
Right.
all of everything being faked, I do kind of want to look more into how people think that the moon landing was all just done on a studio. I think there's some fun arguments there and just fun to look into.
Sure. Yeah, it is definitely fun to talk about. Another thing that kind of was off for me about this flat earth theory was, what about gravity? And when I was reading up on it, they basically said it's kind of like, imagine you're in a car and you're going at full speed and you come to a complete stop. And you know how when you're coming to a complete stop, you're kind of jerked forward, but then and then pulled back into your seat. Mm-hmm. It's like gravity is like pulling you backwards. They said that's what's happening to the Earth, is that it's stopping and starting at this. I mean, it's going fast and being stopped at the same time.
That would be weird. Okay.
And so I was like, I mean, that was just one of the theories of gravity. I mean, they had other ones, but this one I was like, that's awfully odd.
Yeah. I'd like to see them argue that with an actual scientist.
Right.
Like get Neil deGrasse Tyson up in here.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So what did you think? They did some interesting things on that documentary. They did those tests. For anybody out there who would like to watch it, I actually felt like the documentary was put together very well.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. Do you remember what it's called?
Yeah, it was called, I said it earlier. Let me look again. Behind the Dome.
Okay. Yeah, so it should be pretty readily available. And I thought it did a good job of just kind of like showing you maybe another motivation to be a flat earther is because you're a part of a community. Like some of these people feel like they're special and important and a part of something now. Like the main guy who came up with it, was it Mark Sargent? Like he's super proud of it.
Well, he didn't actually come up with it, but I think that
come up with the conventions. Yeah,
the conventions and stuff.
Yeah,
yes.
so like people, I think they like being a part of something and feeling special, and there's just not a lot of evidence to flat earth, and I think that all their little tests are just like ignoring a lot of science and facts. Right.
But I did think it was interesting. They said that they have that new company that they were able to fund called FE Corps, which is Flat Earth Corporation, and they have money funded now to try to prove the flat earth theory.
That sounds like a cult in the making. Honestly.
Yeah, but so does everything. NASA could be a cult. We don't know that.
Yeah, it's just like this weird mentality, and like there's something about flat earthers, it seems that they're a little bit aggressive on proving their points, and it's like something that is very big divide. You're a flat earther or you're not. I've seen a lot of interviews where like people who are into it will be like, are you flat earth or round earth? And if you're round earth, they're like, they're done with you. And it's just,
and they don't have a thing to do with you because you don't understand.
Yeah. And how they were talking about how like really dating, you don't want to date outside of the flat earth community. So they have these flat earth dating websites. And that's where it kind of gets in my mind a little bit more of like a cult.
Cultish.
Yeah.
I guess I thought, for me, I was just like, that's no different than anything else. They have that christianmingle.com, and they have, I mean, you want to date somebody who's in your same religion, they have websites for that.
Yep. That's where it's weird though, like a conspiracy theory to have a dating thing. Like that's where it's a cult. You know what I mean? Like to me, Christianity can be like a cult. Any religion can be like a cult. Wiccan can be like a cult, just depending on how you start wielding it. And so, I don't know.
Yeah. Who knows? It was really interesting. I did like some of the tests that they did, and it was like they would do a test and then it came out to be that the earth was curved, and they'd be like, well, back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
Try it again.
Yeah.
Just, we gotta try to
they
make
don't want to let it go
fit.
Because that's everything that holds that community together. That's what I see when I watch that documentary is a
Right.
group of people who found something to believe in, and that's what is their center.
Yeah, and people that are there for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that sense, it's just the same reason why some people go to church, is because they need that sense of community, and maybe they don't have anybody else who makes them feel that way.
Right.
So, and I get that to a certain extent.
Yeah. One of the opening scenes of the movie had me laughing was like, I guess he was somewhere in Washington and he was on a beach and he was looking over at the other side and he's like, see that over there? That's Seattle. He's like, why can I see the tops of those buildings? And then he draws us like a half of a dome and he's like, if I'm here and I'm looking at Seattle, and like he puts a dot for like being at like 12 o'clock and then a dot for like maybe 5 o'clock. And he's like, if this is Seattle, why can I see that? It's all the way over at the other side of the curvature. And I'm like, dude, it's across a small body of water. It's not like it's in China.
Yeah. He was on Whidbey Island.
Okay, thank you for knowing that.
Yeah. Yes.
I just thought it was so funny. I was like, you're so extreme in these statements you make so blatantly.
Yeah, I know you looked up some stuff. I'd love to riff off of it. So tell me what you got.
Yeah, so like I said before, I kind of just think flat earthers are a little vague on explanations and on science. They don't have a lot of answers. It's all like they don't know who our creator is. They don't know why people are doing it.
Yeah, they even believed, they said dinosaurs were fake.
Yes.
I was like, what about the bones? So all of the people who are archaeologists digging for bones.
Yeah.
That's
Dinosaurs are a
faked.
lie. Evolution is a lie. So flat earthers, another one of their core beliefs is that like we're really more unique and special and we're not made by chance. We're not Big Bang. Like that flat earth was made for a specific reason and we're within this dome, and that whatever is outside this dome like is really in tune with us. They know who we are, and it makes you more special and unique, and that you're not like a descendant of a chimpanzee. And so like I saw footage of this guy like shouting this kind of stupid stuff and rhetoric at some person who's just parked in their car in the documentary, and that really bothers me. Like I don't want anyone coming at me with their dumb religions or thoughts or conspiracy theories and screaming in my face unless you're my friend and we openly talk about conspiracies, and then I want it.
Right.
But
right.
I don't
exactly.
really.
Yeah, there's a time and a place.
Exactly. And it's okay to just talk about it socially and then be like, what do you think? But don't get like aggressive.
Right. Right.
I was looking at how a lot of people are looking at flat earthers and trying to study where they come from. Where does this like stem from? And there's this one doctor, actually a lot of doctors, but one that I did focus on, that she's been trying to dissect how they've gotten into the phenomena. And her name was Dr. Landrum. She's attended a lot of these flat earth conferences, and she'll interview people and ask them like how they got into it. And every single person she interviewed said that they learned about the flat earth theory directly from YouTube. And that YouTube has been the huge cause in the resurgence of this whole flat earth phenomena. And a lot of people who are looking up conspiracy theories can see that in their suggested window, and they're getting all this false information. Some scientists are kind of like saying, hey, we need to monitor what's going on YouTube and you can't put that kind of stuff out there. Anytime someone wants to monitor what's going on YouTube more and more and more, it does worry me. You know, if you're going to say that flat earth is a lie, then what's them to stop them from being like, okay, now we can't put up JFK videos, ancient alien videos, magic videos.
Mandela effect.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
So I don't really want there to be necessarily putting a stop to people putting whatever they want on YouTube. I think that freedom is necessary and freedom of speech is necessary.
Right.
It's just surprising to me how, wow, as soon as I said that, I guess I've been that person. I realized it. Sometimes you watch a video and it can be really convincing to you in that moment based on what you already know.
Right.
And it can convince you of like crazy things. Like that's how I got into astral projection.
Right.
Is I saw a really
Oh my gosh, I
convincing
remember
video.
that. Remember that thing that you looked up a couple weeks ago when we were doing Dracula?
Oh
and
my
you
God.
came across that website and
This
you thought
is
it was
super
real?
embarrassing. Okay, so I found a
sorry.
blog talking about like vampire hunters and how they were going around America and killing people, and here were a couple of names of some famous vampire hunters. And the story was very specific about how this one like redheaded guy was going around early America during like the Civil War and clearing out like mines of vampires. And I was like, this is so weird. This is written like it's fact, not fiction. What the hell? And I just thought that by the time the Civil War was happening, we still didn't believe in vampires. So I like try to figure out where did she get this information. So I type in that guy's name and vampire hunter. And so it takes me to this website. And I think it was like the advocacy of zombie and paranormal I don't know, it was like zombies and vampire advocacy group or something like that. And it's just saying how in early America, when everyone was migrating over here from like Europe and stuff, there was a lot of vampires that came through. And so the presidents at the time made this organization and group to try to find a cure and try to get hunters. And I was like, oh my God, this is real. Holy shit. And for like, I would say 24 hours, I was telling everyone about this. I was texting Mindy. I was telling my friends. I was telling my coworkers. And then I come home from work and I tell my husband, and he's the first person, my skeptic husband, who was like, that's bullshit. No, honey, no. And this is why I love him. I need that in my life. And so I was like, okay, this is Wayne. I need hardcore facts. I can't go to that specific website and show him, because you don't want to trust the organization's website. You want to get outsider information. The organization's website can say whatever they want, you know? So I started hitting the internet, and I was only getting like comic books, fiction stories, and then I went to that website and be like, well, where are their sources? And then I scrolled down to the bottom, and in big red letters it was like, this is all fiction intended for fun. And I was like, damn it. I told my coworkers.
It's just funny because you and I were like fish on a reel, and our husbands are like, come on, come back here. Come back here.
Come on, little fishy.
Pull you back to...
Come on, little Pisces.
That's right. Come on, Pisces. Let's come back to land.
So honestly, flat earthers, I'm on the same boat as you, okay? I go on some weird adventures, and I like to believe weird shit that's outside of the norm. So I get it.
Absolutely.
But you gotta
Absolutely.
You can't really deny science and facts. Like, don't be blind and try to see things from other perspectives, but don't go so far that your reality's like, I guess, fishing line has been cut.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, I'm never coming back.
Yeah. The earth is flat. And like the Dr. Landrum, her whole study, she found out that pretty much everyone who believed in flat earth did believe in other conspiracy theories like 9/11, chemtrails, the Holocaust, like all that kind of stuff. And again, I get it, like those kind of things can really seem realistic, and not trusting the government is so easy to do. Why would we trust the government? They're an evil business who wants money and wants to profit and wants to keep us down. Like, I think it's...
And control us.
Yeah. So, questioning your government, that's kind of what I like about the flat earth theory. And questioning your reality, it's fascinating. And there's some psychologists that say that like having these beliefs and conspiracies really stem from this human tendency to perceive unseen forces at work, which is labeled as magical thinking. So again, you and I are very magical thinking type of people.
Right.
So I'm surprised by the end of this, we're not flat earthers.
I know. I mean, there were a couple of times when I was reading, because I did a lot of reading, especially there were a couple of websites like the Flat Earth Theory website, I think, was it? Yeah, the Flat Earth Society. And so I'm like reading, and I'm like, oh my God. No, Wendy.
Yep.
Nope.
You have to call yourself back. That's good.
Yeah. Like, no.
And it's really because, like, flat earthers, they're writing off all of this concrete evidence that Earth is actually, like, spherical and round. And they really are just super accept all these kind of crazy ideas that most of us do consider ridiculous. And that's why you are able to see those signs. Like, no, there's facts, there's science. We already know all this stuff. It's been proven.
Right.
And so I just kind of wanted to, again, mention how they kind of think the day and night cycle works. I know we talked about it, but basically the sun and the moon are the spheres that are kind of like spotlights. And so they think that they're like, as we're flat, kind of like a flat pancake, they come over that dome and shine down on us like a lamp kind of a thing in a 24-hour cycle.
Right.
And that there also must be an invisible anti-moon that would obscure the moon during lunar cycles like the eclipse. So that is really funny to me.
Or they mentioned something about like the sun auto eclipses itself. Was that how that it was just like it was auto eclipsing? I was like,
explain that. Yeah.
Were we looking at the same thing? Because I got to enjoy the lunar eclipse or the solar eclipse, and it was amazing to the temperature changes around you. You kind of feel this odd, it just felt like this odd serenity,
right,
that sort of surrounded you, and you could see the moon.
You know, if you're a flat earther and the energies, the weather is changing, I think a part of that too is that they believe that the government can control the weather.
Oh, right.
I think there's just this crazy ideas. And I actually found out that originally Walt Disney's plans for Disneyland was to be in a confined dome so that he could control the weather.
Oh my gosh, that's weird.
He was so imaginative and like really committed to building that perfect atmosphere. That to me sounds really creepy, and especially if he built it back then, like it just would be so weird.
It would have been.
Yeah. But if anyone could have figured it out, it's Disney. Maybe he's the creator of our flat earth. It's Walt Disney with his frozen head, kind of like in Futurama.
Yes.
I think we talked about a little bit, but flat earthers believe that photos of the globe are 100% photoshopped, which I think, to my understanding, I could be wrong, is only correct to a degree, because if you're taking a big scan of something like that, you can't technically get it all at one scan, so you put it together.
Sure.
But there's just weird, I guess, people evidence pointing to the fact that if you look at Antarctica, it's always covered. You can't really see what's in there. There's people who even think that if you look at the top of Antarctica, it kind of like has this black hole kind of thing. And that's where like a hollow earth theory starts happening. And flat earthers and hollow earthers can actually coexist and agree to a degree. People who think the earth is flat also do think that it's thick enough that it could be a hollow earth as well.
Right.
So I thought that was pretty cool. And they also say that GPS devices are actually rigged to make airplane pilots think they're flying in a straight line around a sphere when they're actually just flying in circles above a disc. So they try to always point out to like flight routes and how it's really weird that you go here on like a stop first and then go over to here. And it's kind of, instead of being like a straight line.
I always felt that the reason why flight paths were there were especially over ocean water. Like I feel that's because they don't talk about this, but there are all these magnetic things in the ocean, these magnetic points. And so you can't fly through those magnetic points because it messes with your gear inside the airplanes.
Huh.
So I feel like the way that the flight paths are is for a reason.
Right? Like, I'm not going to argue this. And like, I guess they try to think that like pilots are completely blind and only relying on the GPS. So how would they know? Like, it's just complete distrust once again.
You can see curvature of the earth with your
naked eye,
with your bare eye. Yeah. So I know that I've seen the earth's curvature. You just have to be in certain places. You can't see it everywhere, but there are certain places that you can view it.
Right. And I just think like, look at the moon, look at the planets. Like, we can see that those are round. Why would we be flat and those round?
Right.
It's just silly.
And those not. Unless we're flying around on this giant spaceship.
Yeah, you cracked it.
It was the only way that I could get behind it is if I thought that we were on an alien craft.
Okay, I'm gonna spin it one more time and say that we're on the back of a giant sea turtle zooming through space, which I believe is like a Stephen King thing, and that might be one of those weird layers of like the Dark Tower series.
Yes, Dark Tower. I love that. I've never seen the movie, but I have read all of the books.
I've heard the movies. Don't even play with them. Don't bother. I have not read the books personally, but a lot of people in my life around me have, and high praise to that series.
Yeah, it was good.
I did look into what scientists have to say about flat Earth. As I am not a scientist, I needed to research really how they can shut this shit down and give us some hardcore facts. So, like, what would happen if Earth was flat? So let's play with that. They're saying that gravity would really fail because if we had a pancake planet, it might not even have any gravity, and it's really unclear how that gravity would work or be created. And this is all from James Davis. He's a geophysicist. He says there's a pretty big deal because you need gravity. Obviously, we have that in our life. So how are we explaining that? The same measurable force that causes an apple to fall from a tree also causes the moon to orbit the Earth and all the planets to orbit the sun. So people who believe that the flat Earth theory assume that gravity would pull straight down, but there's no evidence to suggest that that would even work at all. What we know about gravity suggests it would pull toward the center of a flat disk, which means that it would only pull straight down at the center point of the flat Earth. And so the further you were on the edges of that flat Earth, gravity would tug you in horizontal direction. So this would have really strange impacts on our planet, like sucking all the water towards the center of the world and making trees and plants grow diagonally, since they develop in the opposite direction of gravity's pull.
Dang, that's interesting. I wonder if it would be that underneath the Earth would be this cone shape.
That would be creepy to like have all the Earth's water going down like a drain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that planet would survive long. A flat Earth would also experience solar problems because the sun, in a scientifically supported model of the solar system, the Earth revolves around the sun because the sun is much more massive and has more gravity, and the Earth doesn't fall into the sun because it's traveling in an orbit. So the sun's gravity isn't acting alone. The planet is also traveling in a direction perpendicular to the star's gravitational tug. If it were possible to switch off that gravity, the Earth would actually shoot away in a straight line and actually hightail it out of our solar system.
Like that big solar object that came through.
Yeah,
that
totally.
Oumuamua, whatever it is.
Yeah, unless it's Wendy's spaceship model. I guess he's just controlling itself.
That's right.
So yeah, it really wouldn't result in orbiting the sun at all. The flat Earth model places our planet at the center of the universe, but doesn't suggest that the sun orbits the Earth. The flat Earth theory also suggests that the sun circles over the top side of the world, like we said, broadcasting a light downward like a lamp, and there's really no logic in how that would work. What would keep the sun and moon hovering above the Earth instead of crashing into it? So it's just another unanswered theory and question that you could place on a flat earther, and they're just going to say, well, we don't know. We don't know who's holding up those planets.
Right. Yeah.
I wonder if any of them believe in like crazy alien powers, like the Anunnaki.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I bet they don't believe in any of that, actually. If they don't believe in the creation theory, yeah, it depends on if they believe in the creation theory. Because if they can believe in the creation theory, then maybe they could believe in the Anunnaki.
Right. Also, apparently in a flat world, satellites would not be possible because they wouldn't be able to orbit. And GPSs wouldn't even work on a flat Earth at all. Because they wouldn't have satellites and things like that.
Right. Right.
So, and then if we think about the Earth's core, the solid core of the Earth actually generates the planet's magnetic field. But if we had a flat planet, they would have to be replaced by something else. So they were trying to think of...
Like an engine.
Yeah, an engine. So their idea was a flat sheet of liquid metal. Maybe it's a liquid metal Terminator engine. And that the flat Earth wouldn't really rotate in a way that creates a magnetic field. So without a magnetic field, the charged particles from the sun would actually fry our planet. They would strip away the atmosphere, which is actually what happened after Mars lost its magnetic field, and the air in the oceans would actually escape into space, which sounds super scary.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, so I guess if the sun were fake and we had a liquid metal sort of engine on a ship going through space.
Right. I'm with you.
Then flat Earth exists.
That's it.
Or if we were in like a 3D model, or like in a model, what's that other theory, that the Matrix? If we were in a Matrix, yes, flat Earth could exist in a Matrix.
Exactly. Basically, simulation theory is all I could think of.
Yes.
To try to, like, it's just Earth is not even an organic thing. Like, we're a sim, basically.
Yeah.
And I actually did a little other digging on the interwebs to find out that it's actually a misconception that societies of serious, educated people ever actually believed in the flat Earth theory. So this historian Jeffrey Burton Russell noted in 1997, with few exceptions, no educated person in the history of Western civilization from the 3rd century BC onward actually ever believed that the Earth was flat. So a round Earth appears at least as early as the 6th century BC, with Pythagoras, who was followed by Aristotle, among others, in observing that the Earth was actually a sphere. So a lot of like educated philosophers believed early on that it was a sphere. There is a scientist and a writer, Stephen Jay Gould. He wrote that the idea that many people, including the Spaniards and Christopher Columbus, believed that Earth was to be flat was actually concocted by this 19th century writers like this guy Washington Irving and Jean Latrone, and a lot of other people. They had this like academic for strong anti-religious prejudices who really drew up upon both to misrepresent the church fathers and their medieval successors as believing in a flat earth. So does that sound like he is anti-religious and he wants to basically disprove them?
Right.
So I guess really in all my research, I kind of just came to the conclusion that it's really fun to theorize on these different types of conspiracy theories. But really when it comes to flat earth, science and hard facts kind of wins in my mind. And the flat earth idea clearly begins to fall apart really quickly when you start asking these questions.
I feel like anybody who does believe in the flat earth theory must never have been abducted by aliens, because I think that they would know.
That is the most random thing you could have pointed out. Like, well, to be a flat earther means you're not abducted. Okay, so I can't believe you bring up alien abductions like that's your solid proof. So do you mean that if you're abducted by aliens, it's because you would have seen the planet?
Yes.
Oh my God. I guess so.
And obviously,
no
astronauts believe in the flat earth theory because they've been on the space station. Yeah. They're looking down.
And they think they were paid off, basically.
Yeah, no. It's funny because in that documentary, I remember someone was like, the guy who was a twin, I forget his name, the astronaut who was a twin who was on the space station. He was like, I got paid $5 a day to be up there.
Right. Well, I was like, was that the real pay rate of an astronaut? $5 an hour?
I think so. No, I thought he said per day.
Oh my God. Even worse.
Yeah. I was like, that's even worse. So basically, you're just working for free.
You should make bank if you're an astronaut.
I thought so, too. I mean, maybe he does. Maybe I misunderstood what he said, but...
I mean, I thought that's what he meant, too, when I watched it.
Yeah, I was like, what? I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I really am curious to know if flat earthers believe in aliens.
Yeah, I don't know. They really didn't mention that.
Not at all. Not what I could find.
So, I mean, I really don't know what else to say. We could really go bounce back and forth all day long, probably, about all of the different things that they believe and how absurd we think that it is. But I'm sure people would say that about all the things that I've said about ghosts and Mandela effect and
100%.
Yeah.
All of the stuff we talk about, magic and everything, people are going to be like, magic cannot be scientifically blah, 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 blah. And I would still never stop doing magic or believing in magic.
Exactly. Yeah.
So good point.
So if you believe in flat earth, power to you, because you have a group of people that you can be around and who are there for you. It seemed like they had such a good community that everybody pretty much had their back. I mean, there were some that were like not a part of the group.
A little masculine of a community. It seemed like.
Yeah.
But I guess that's just the internet. The internet can be kind of toxic.
That's true.
And it is kind of an online community aside for the conventions.
Sure.
And he was charging like $100-something per ticket to get in the convention. Yeah. That's a crazy amount to me. I'm like, I would never spend that to go to an anime convention.
I was like, we don't do that when we go to Comic-Con. It's like $30 or whatever for a day pass, I think, for Comic-Con here. So I can't even imagine that.
Yeah, and like most bigger ones are like max $80, which is pretty high. But if you buy, I'm all like con advice. If you buy your ticket early, guys, it's cheaper.
You get a discount.
So maybe flat earth conferences are the same, but they sold out really quickly. There's a demand for it. There's money to be made. I feel like that little machine's going to keep it going.
Right.
And who knows how long flat earth is going to be a movement.
They're going to keep testing. Depends on, I mean, to me, it seemed like when they were doing the testing, the way that it was explained, every time they do a test, it was like, well, it didn't work, but we're going to try to make it work. It was like, we got to figure out what we did wrong in order for it to be disproven.
Right. Which just shows that you're in so deep that you will not be changed. Your mind is there.
Right. Your mind is already made up. And I get that.
We'll go ahead and wrap up our discussion on Flat Earth. Thank you guys for listening, and as always, join us next Wednesday in a compelling discussion on synchronicities and the law of attraction. So you can find us on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find us on Facebook, and don't forget to check out our blog at cousinscoven.home.blog, where you can find witchy words of wisdom, spells, and our archived podcast episodes from episode 1, I think, to about 2022. And our current podcast episodes can be found on Podomatic, Spotify, iTunes, and anywhere else podcasts can be found. So don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and please share with your other weird witchy friends. And send in your cauldron topic ideas if you have questions or your own paranormal experiences into cousinscoven2@gmail.com.
We would love to have you guys write in so we can have an episode maybe where we read those on the air. And may you find happiness in your heart, love for yourself, and joy in each other. Blessings to all.